What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to NanoCast, brand new podcast all about the cryptocurrency Nano. Nano is fast, feeless, scalable, and led by a driven team. It's inspired thousands to participate in the development of its apps and services. And on this podcast, you'll get to meet some of these people and learn what they're up to. And I just want to remind you that all of these episodes are sponsored by Nano Things. If you subscribe, leave a comment, you will be entered to win a set of stickers. All right, so without further ado, Arman Dezfuli-Arjomandi. Arman, thanks so much for being on.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, what you do during the day, and what brought you to Nano.
Sure. So my name is Arman. I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, West Philadelphia, born and raised, as the theme song goes. I grew up here, just a few blocks from where I live now. And for day work, I do a few things. So I have a lot of projects going on at all times. I have an app business that I've had for maybe 8 or I think 9 years now. You lose track after it's been so many. And that involves just me making apps by myself, come up with the ideas, do the design, programming, marketing, just basically everything. Made 6 or 7 apps that way. Some of them you may have heard of are Slide, a game kind of like mimicking the slide to unlock functionality of the older iOS systems, and a game called Falcross. I also made an app for the college humor duo Jake and Amir. If you're a College Humor fan, and I made a few others here and there. So that's my main thing. And then right now I'm also spending half my time helping out a really awesome Philly-based startup called Habitat. So Habitat is a food delivery as a service company. So basically they work directly with restaurants to fulfill all their deliveries through all channels. It's a really interesting business model, an exciting team, and I actually met the CEO at a Y Combinator event here in West Philly, which is like kind of crazy. Like, who would have thought Y Combinator would come to West Philly? But I went to their event and I met the team, and I'm really excited about what they're doing. So I'm sort of helping them work on their stack and really improve things operationally and in terms of design and UI UX. And I've also started a few other companies in the past, and a lot of things. But right now, my app business and Habitat are my main things.
All right, awesome. And when did you first hear about Rayblox, and why'd you decide to get into it?
So my good friend and former roommate Taylor, shout out to Taylor Hawes. He's launching actually a very cool crypto-based t-shirt website called cointhreads.io, so I'm going to give that a little plug here. He told me about Rayblox back in December, and at that time I wasn't really involved in crypto at all, or really doing anything related to it. I had a little bit of like leftover Ethereum from like a small investment a few years ago. I had been really involved in crypto around 2011 when Bitcoin was first sort of starting up. I got really excited about it back then. Built a bunch of mining rigs in my dad's apartment and just had those running 24/7. But sold them all at a pretty low price, as many of us did. So my friend Taylor told me about Rayblox in December, and I thought, wow, this is like really, really different from any other cryptocurrency I've seen. So naturally, I was intrigued. I looked into it, and I'm trying to remember exactly how I got hooked on it, but I think the story goes that I didn't have any Rayblox to myself. So and it was kind of hard to get because there was BitGrail and it took time to get verified, and they like didn't have registrations, something like that. And so I was like, man, how can I play with this? And the really only way you could play with it was through raygames.io, which is like a gambling site. They give you like 1/1000th of a Rayblock or something to play with and gamble with on their site. So I found that, and I am not a gambling man, but I'm somewhat ashamed to admit that I spent the next 6 or 7 hours playing Ray games, and I don't know why. I just was completely hooked on Ray games, and I was up big. I guess that's maybe why I was hooked. And, part of it was this irrational thought of like, oh, wow, I can actually profit off of this if I play it right. And then, of course, it turns out, of course not. It's a gambling site. Of course, the house always wins. But I think that really got me excited about just like the transaction speed and the simplicity of Rayblox, because I withdrew some of my Ray Games winnings, or just moved them around from wallet to wallet once I had more Rayblox to play with. And yeah, I just thought that was really cool. It was so fast. There was no mining. I mean, there's just so many cool things about it. And I actually, again, I'm kind of ashamed to admit that after that experience and staying up till like 7 a.m. playing Ray games, which again, I don't even stay up. I'm not even a person who stays up all night. So this was a crazy night by all means. I decided like, wow, I have to start a Rayblox gambling site. Oh. So I took this idea that I'd had for years of sort of creating like a sort of a battleship-like game where like there's a square, there's basically this, not a grid, but just like a big square, and there are rounds, and in each round, every player gets the chance to place a dot, an equally sized dot in the square. And the goal is to get none of the dots to overlap. So if you overlap with nobody else, you're one of the winners. And if you overlap with anyone at all, you lose whatever you bet on that round. So I just took the opportunity. I was like, I've had this game idea for a long time. I love just getting ideas that I've had for a long time out into some product. So I built a game called Ray Dots. And anyone who was sort of in the Rayblox Discord around that month or so period between December and January, will remember like I was beta testing heavily with everyone there, and I was like, "Oh, guys, come in, play with fake Rayblox and help me test this game." And as a part of building Ray Dots, I needed a way to send and receive Nano, and man, it took a lot of effort. Like there wasn't very good documentation anywhere, and I just really, really struggled. It took me 2.5 weeks to really figure out just like how to get a node set up, how to send a transaction, how to receive transactions reliably, and I was like, man, like this needs to be made way, way, way easier if this currency is going to be adopted. And so as a side project to my side project, I started Nanode, which was back then called Rayblox.club. And I created some documentation. I just started writing documentation as I was going along because I was like, man, if no one else is writing this down, like I might as well, and just put it up on this website. So I started writing documentation as I was making Ray Dots. And while I was at it, I was like, well, I have to learn about blocks and everything. And man, the official block explorer, it's pretty slow, and I just really think it could be a lot better. So I decided to, make it into a block explorer as well. And that just kind of snowballed, and I was like, oh, and I could do this, and I could do this, better account pages. And my attention really just organically shifted over to the Rayblox Club website. Yeah. And I actually did end up finishing the game Ray Dots, but at that time I had so much of Rayblox.club built that I was just like, you know what? I don't want to be associated with a gambling site. I don't want to, I don't want to make money off of people like that. And so, with the help from my friend, I actually I did finish the site, but I just ended up I decided never to launch it because I was like, I'm just going to focus on this other thing. It's good for the community. It makes me feel good. I think it's fun, and I'm not going to make money off of gambling. Instead of swindling people out of their money. Yeah, basically.
That's awesome. So it's just one thing kind of led to another. You're tweaking one thing, and then you start a new thing, and you just, I don't know. If you're anything like me, you probably just couldn't stop tweaking it.
You're exactly right. Yeah, I get in these sort of, like really passionate sort of development streaks where, I finish one thing and like the dopamine rush is so big that I'm like, oh my God, now I have to do the next thing. And yeah, it's just this total snowball effect.
What would you say, like, yeah, obviously you kind of stumbled into it, like you were doing it for Ray Dots, but like you didn't really have a vision in the beginning, but now that you're further into it, what do you kind of see the vision of the Explorer to be, Nanode to be?
Well, I've realized, what it's like to run a block explorer. I mean, people don't really, there's there's not really a lot of glory in a block explorer. No one, I don't think there are that many people that stay up late thinking about block explorers. um, but I unknowingly became one of those people. And, what I realized is that a block explorer is probably the most central aspect of almost any cryptocurrency. I mean, when it comes to Rayblock's Club and now Nanode, once I started making it good, once I started adding features that weren't in the official Rayblock's Explorer, people were linking them. They were DMing me and stuff on Discord, and they were like, "Man, this is so cool. Could you add this? Could you add this?" And every time someone asked for a feature, I'd write it down. And you view these common threads of things that people want in the Block Explorer, and you realize the Block Explorer is the main visibility that people have into this currency. I mean, 99% of people, especially non-technical people who are just casually investing, they're not going and writing their own scripts to check, what the weights of the representatives in the network are, or, how many transactions are happening each second, or just all these sort of metadata, meta metrics about the network. And I think the Block Explorer is a perfect tool to sort of a perfect place to build those features. And so I just kept getting more and more excited because people kept asking for, they're like, "Oh, I want to see transactions per second. I want to see historical graph of blocks per day." And I'm like, yeah, man, this is becoming a real snowball effect. Tons of websites are linking to Nanode, and people view it as the central place to get information about Nano. And I thought that was really, really powerful. And my view on a block explorer has totally changed. I think it can. I think it's more than just being able to view accounts and blocks. I think it really can be a central place for evangelizing a cryptocurrency. It's where people come to learn about it. I have tons of documentation on Nanode, and I keep trying to think of different things that I can offer the community. I think if a currency has a really great block explorer, that in itself sort of helps adoption and really helps people appreciate the currency. So that's what I'm aiming for now.
Yeah, just making. Would you say you're trying to make the best block explorer?
I want to make the best one for Nano. Okay. I've had people tell me that Nanode is the best block explorer that they've seen, and I'm super flattered by that, but I can't say I spend a lot of time looking at other block explorers, so I don't know how right they are.
I was going to ask if there were any block explorers that you take inspiration from, but I guess not.
I mean, Etherscan is, I think, the biggest block explorer, or maybe second biggest out there, and I think it's pretty cool. But I think even that could be improved on. So, there's so much more that they could do. And I think mainly when I've looked around at block explorers, I've been really underwhelmed. I mean, there are some amazing projects. I also really think Stellar is a cool project. And there are 4 or 5, maybe 6 block explorers that come up when you type Stellar Block Explorer. But almost all of them, I'm like, man, you could have done so much more with this. They're just 2 basic panes of information with really no meta information, no drill down or anything. And I don't know if that's a limitation of the Stellar protocol. It doesn't seem like it would be, but I think there is a lot of progress to be made on block explorers.
Yeah, I would say that Nanode is the prettiest block explorer that I've seen. I mean, there's a lot of blockchains out there, so I certainly haven't seen all of them, but I'd say it's pretty good. What would
Thanks.
you say no problem. What would you say your most popular feature is on Nanode?
People really like the real-time account pages. I think if you look at the number of if you use traffic as a metric, definitely the representatives page. That page actually started as a request from a core team member to basically get more visibility into the distribution of representatives. And I already had sort of been looking at that data anyway, and I was like, look, just give me a couple days and I'll whip up this page. And it turns out I think it's an extremely valuable tool for Nano. Because representatives really, I mean, for people who don't know, Nano is a distributed proof of stake protocol, or excuse me, delegated proof of stake, which means, there's no mining. In a traditional cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, mining is basically what secures the network. But in Nano, what secures the network is voting. And delegate nodes will vote based on, how many people have decided to delegate their voting weight. And their voting weight is based on how much Nano they own. So really, delegation and the representatives are the core of what makes Nano secure. And I guess before I made that page, there was really nowhere to see an actual breakdown of representatives, for the public to see. Of course, you could query the node yourself, but and there definitely wasn't any place that was tracking the uptime of those representatives. And it's really important if there's a big representative that it has good uptime, because if it's not voting, then it's really not doing its job participating in the network. Right. So I would say the reps page is definitely the most popular and most important page of Nanode.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Speaking of representatives, NanoCast has a representative. So if you want NanoCast to be a representative, you can find that address down in the video description. There's also some information for how to set up your own node, because that's another great way to help decentralize the network, and why there's a link down there for why it's important. And also, if you go to Nanode, you can find more information about that too.
Yep.
So
and if you're looking to just get started with Nano really quickly and you don't have time to set up a node yourself, at Nanode we have what's called Node API, which is basically a really simplified developer experience. You can make RPC calls to our nodes, and every new user gets 1,000 API calls a month for free. So that gives you tons of room to build basically anything without paying a cent to Nanode. So I'll give a little plug there as well.
Cool. So what are some things you think people would use that for?
I'm pretty interested to see. We've only been up for a few months with Node API, but we've got over 500 users at this point who've signed up, which definitely blew away my expectations. People are building all sorts of things. I offer support in Discord, so people come and tell me what they're working on when they ask me questions. One that I think is really interesting right now is like a MetaMask-like browser extension that sort of gives money to content creators via Nano. Other people are working on gaming sites. I know there is one person who was working on a gambling site, although I think that might have been abandoned. So basically any type of project. And I think what's cool about Node API is that it kind of lowers the barrier, because people may be technical and they may be good at writing web applications, writing designing things, or just interacting with APIs. But I think, as you said, you've linked to a guide on your site or on your page to set up your own node, and I think there's still a lot of progress to be made with ease of use and developer experience in setting up a node. So people who might not be as comfortable with like a Bash shell or setting up a Linux VM, I think Node API is for those people. And I think high level APIs like that offer a really valuable sort of in for people who aren't as technical in the sort of DevOps sort of way, to be able to create their own projects with Nano.
Sweet. That's an awesome service that you're providing. As far as the look of Nanode, how would you say that you kind of view, or how do you work on the UI, UX of Nanode?
Yeah, so I'm like a super design oriented person. So every feature I add to Nanode, every page, is really sort of like UI, UX is the absolute first thing I think of, and then everything else comes around that. And I think one of the fun parts of being a full stack engineer and like UI, UX, like obsessed person is that I've noticed that a lot of like design decisions on the front end also inform the back end and vice versa. So I think I've had a lot of fun learning and sort of making these sort of very integrated design decisions. For example, if you want to display real-time data on a page, you have to architect the database and your real-time systems in a certain way to make sure that you're going to be able to do that at scale. And I've been thinking of, user experience and scale from the absolute beginning with Nanode. Because, you never know how popular something is going to get, so you better be ready. But I have to give a huge shout out to the CSS framework that I've been using for the site. It's called Bulma, Bulma.io. It's based on Flexbox. It's completely free and open source, and I just think, I always looked at these CSS frameworks like Bootstrap and Foundation, and I was always like, I don't know, it's cool, but it also seems like it's like a little much, or I don't really like the way it looks. But I think Bulma is the first CSS framework that I've really been like, this looks the way that I would want it to look if I made it myself, and it may maybe even better. And so I have to give a huge shout out because a lot of the design is heavily inspired by the Bulma default components. But I really just like to keep things as simple as possible. I mean, if you look at something like the account page, you really want every transaction to fit on one row. You want it to be, very clear, like, when did this happen? How can I view more info about it? What's the amount? Is it a send or receive? And so I spend a lot of time thinking about things like that. And I think that is really important for, again, sort of slightly less technical people, to not be overwhelmed by a block explorer. So I think, it's really worth the while to put time into designing a block explorer to be visually pleasing and simple, but also provide all the information and allow someone to dig deep if they really want to, if they're an experienced and very technical person.
Sweet. That's and can save a lot of time if it's the kind of the design you're going for.
Absolutely.
And we already know Nano is beautiful, so why wouldn't it be? What's the Nano technology stack look like?
So I tried to think from the beginning, how can I make Nanode scalable? And I'm really experienced with Heroku. Talking about me providing a high-level platform to other people with Node API, Heroku is basically that for me. It's an integrated platform that really helps you with a lot of the developer operations stuff. But there are certain things that don't really work well on Heroku, like hosting a Nano node is not really something you'd want to do on Heroku. So I have my main stack running on Heroku. The Nano nodes run on GCP along with a special proxy software that I wrote. The proxy software, I have proxy nodes that proxy between the Nano nodes that I run for Nanode and Google Cloud PubSub. And the PubSub service is how I send RPC calls back and forth between the Heroku stack and the GCP stack and the nodes. So that's the basic setup, and sort of the underlying principle is that you can scale it up at any point. I can scale up on Heroku by increasing the database size or adding more dynos. I can, like Google Cloud PubSub, the intermediate layer is like massively scalable. It powers services like Spotify. The proxy layer is like a load balanced instance group that it auto scales up if there's a lot of load there. And the nodes themselves are using Docker containers and sort of can dynamically scale up and scale down their numbers as well. So every single aspect of Nanode is designed to be scalable from the beginning. And if people end up really liking Node API, I want to be able to serve them. If Nano ends up being, a top 5 cryptocurrency, I want to be able to serve every visitor with low latency, and just provide a great experience.
When Nano is the top 5 cryptocurrency.
Sorry, did I say if? I stuttered.
That's awesome. That's really, I don't know, that's thinking ahead, making sure everything is so scalable like that. Yeah, that's what you call setting yourself up for success.
That's right.
So you're doing a lot of really cool stuff with Nanode, a lot of stuff that wasn't done before, and obviously this has to have stuck out to the Nano team. So have you been working with them on anything?
So yeah, I've definitely been in constant communication with the Nano team basically ever since I was commissioned to do the representatives page, which was around January. I think the core team, one thing I really like about them is that they're all super open. In general, they will respond to your messages. They're very friendly. They're also professional, and just, definitely some of the most technically talented people I've had the pleasure of working with as well. I mean, it really is kind of an all-star team from front to back. And so I've just been so impressed with the team, and that's really one thing that's sort of made me put in, my 110% is just seeing how they handle everything, from bugs to, the whole BitGrail scandal, which, I don't want to like trigger anyone by saying that. I'm like I feel super bad, and I'm really sorry for all those people who got scammed on BitGrail. And they've just been extremely courteous and professional and just fun from day one. So I think, I've basically become somewhat close with most of them. And I'm just really happy to keep working on like their goals and our shared goals. And I think we have sort of this very good symbiosis where, they're very helpful to me when I have questions, and especially about the software, because I always have tons of questions about the software. And they're also very forthcoming with like, look, we are at limited capacity. These are the things that we want the community to do. And I try to be really receptive to what they want as well. So it's like a very close working relationship where I'm not actually part of the team. And I'm not actually working on anything for them directly, but, we sort of are in each other's ears. And I think that's important. They're really good at like bringing the community together like that.
Cool. Speaking of working on shared goals, what are some things, or what, as far as the Nano pipeline goes that is public, what are you most excited about?
Well, one thing that they just did, one change that was just made was state blocks. And I think that's going to be a huge improvement to just like a lot of performance aspects of the node. I'm still working on implementing that in Nanode, so we'll see how that goes. There have been a little bumps here and there, but I think that's going to be a huge plus. And generally, I think the software is really, really good. I think on crypto in general, we have a lot to prove. The whole crypto community, not just Nano. And, we're going to need to work hard to get there. And I think, we're going to also need to work hard to prove, not just from a technical point, but prove that we are not a solution searching for a problem, because it definitely feels that way sometimes. And it feels like, things like fiat bridges and, accepting payments, it doesn't feel like crypto is stable enough to use as a payments platform. But I think Nano is extremely well positioned for whatever the future may bring, whether that is, that cryptocurrency never really becomes a mainstream payment solution and is only used in niche situations. I think Nano is going to be great for that. I think it's also going to be great for, if it does become a sort of global payment solution that a lot of people use. So what I'm really looking forward to is sort of just the team taking a thoughtful approach to the like remaining attack vectors, and these are all made public. They're all on the roadmap. I think the one that sort of scares me the most is like the ledger breadth attack, where someone sort of creates a ton of fake accounts to inflate the ledger. That's absolutely a possibility. But I think the team also has a lot of like really awesome ideas on how to mitigate that possibility. So I'm, features wise, Nano is an extremely focused product, and I don't really think there are going to be many more features. I think anything that you could characterize as a feature from now on is basically going to be, how do we make this thing more robust and less vulnerable to attack? And I'm excited for that.
Great. And what, you got any future plans for Nanode?
Yeah, definitely. I've got a lot of things that, I sort of want to do. I mean, I have limited time to work on things these days. I spent a lot of time on Nanode, like kind of to the detriment of my other projects. So I've been like bouncing back within the last month or so, trying to like catch up on other things.
Right.
It's really important that I stay on top of everything, but
still have to make money.
Yes, exactly. But one thing that I also have thought about with Nanode from the beginning is like, this thing needs to be self-sufficient. I can't be like spending all my money on it. And so I think offering Node API is like not only a great way to sort of help the community and help developers that don't have DevOps experience, but also a way to fund the site. And so I'm working on doing that. And there have been people who have, signed up and are paying monthly for the service, and I think that's really great. But I want to do more, and everything I do, I want to make it something that benefits everyone, not just me. Because I think I have like a really awesome position with Nanode to be able to keep making a good thing better. And what I really want to do next in terms of advancing the site's functionality and helping the community and helping myself is sort of start advertising community projects on Nanode. I've noticed a lot of crypto-related sites just have like generic banner ads, or just like ads for any old crypto project, and that's not really the way I want to go. I want to have an ad service that sort of doesn't charge too much money, like charges like in a very approachable amount of money per month to put an ad up, so that almost any project can afford to at least try it out, and also selects from the pool of Nano community projects, because I think a lot of people are working on really cool projects and they need more exposure. Like if we're going to increase awareness about Nano, people have to know that they can use Nano in certain places, whether those are online stores or, games. There's just like MetaMask type extensions. There's just so many cool projects going on in the Nano community right now. And so I want to create a really approachable, sort of simple ad buying interface so someone can pay like a simple monthly fee and basically have their ads rotated on all the pages of the Block Explorer. And this isn't going to be like an annoying ad either. It's literally going to be text, like text-only ads. So that's one of the features I'm really looking forward to.
Cool. And the reality is that when somebody hears about Nano, the first place they're going is nano.org, but the next place they're going is probably Nanode. And
a lot of the time it's the opposite direction, because Nano.org, I mean, they have a Block Explorer on there, but Nanode is linked to like some crazy amount X more than the Nano.org Explorer, just because it's more full featured.
Right.
So a lot of people will discover Nano through, someone on Reddit giving them a tip through the Reddit tip bot that one of the community members built. And then that tip bot links to Nanode, and then they start from there and they go from there. So, Yeah,
and then so putting these projects on Nanode, the first place people come when they hear about Nano, and then they see like, oh, look at that awesome project. I want to be a part of that, and they need Nano to do it. It's really great.
Exactly. I think it's really sort of aligning the incentives so that everyone wins.
Yeah, that's cool. What do you think the community can do to benefit or lift up Nano the best?
I think the community should, first of all, work together on things. I've had such an amazing time, and I've learned the most when I've worked on Nanode, and even on the gambling site, like with other community members. Whether it's like even as simple as having other people test what you're doing, because people are really excited. Like people in the Nano community are excited about Nano and they want to use it. There just aren't that many ways to use Nano yet. And so if you have a project where people could use Nano, you reach out to the community. You got to get people on the Discord. You got to get people on Reddit. You got to get people to try your project, and also get that feedback, because that feedback is so important for absolutely any product you're building. Get the feedback early and often. And there are just so many really helpful people in the community. I have to give definitely a specific shout out to J-Dubs, the creator of Nanex, because he helped me just like an unbelievable amount, just figuring out the Node software when I was writing the documentation and sort of getting my feet wet with everything. And he was just always available, always like answered questions within like 2 minutes, and just like incredibly, incredibly helpful. And he is like not the exception either. Like there are a lot of people like that in the Nano community. So I think we need to keep working together. Super, super important. And just build your products, build your projects, have fun with it. I think, I'm working, I have Node API. It's there for you to build whatever your heart desires with basically no risk other than lost time. The Nano team is also working on making the Node software like easier to get started with for people who don't want to use a third-party service. And, I think we just if you feel like you're ready to make a cryptocurrency-based project, I think there's no other cryptocurrency that's better to get started with than Nano. So, go build projects.
Awesome. Great advice. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you wanted to talk about?
Yes. Okay. So there is something called Nanode alias that I think I should talk about because I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people are going to have questions about that and exactly what went down there. So basically in Nano, you have your address and people send money to that address. And a few months ago, I thought it would be really cool if you could have basically like a Twitter handle that that people could send money to that would be attached to your Nano address. I think it would just really make everything much easier. And I've seen people in the community also sort of suggest and advocate this. And when I realized that I was in a position to launch this, like basically have a trusted platform like Nanode and launch some sort of alias system, I got cracking on developing it. And what I realized was that having an alias system that is deeply integrated with the block explorer is like really damn cool because in the live ticker, on the account pages, on the representatives page, everywhere where there's a Nano address and that someone may have registered an alias, you can show their alias. And I just thought that was a really awesome integration. So I worked with the team, with the community members at BrainBlocks, who had created a payment solution, and I basically just made a really simple way to register an alias for your Nano address with a public API that any wallet could integrate. And I announced this on Reddit, and I only spent maybe 24 hours building it because I wanted to build an MVP to see if anyone was even interested. And within just a couple days of launching it on Reddit, I had over 100 alias registrations, and they weren't free either. They cost between $1 and $5. So and paid in Nano, of course. So, people, I discovered that, yeah, people want this and they're willing to pay for it. And there was a lot of also very healthy criticism for the community. And I really appreciated that as well, because people pointed out things like, oh, if Nanode is compromised, people could pretend that they're me and, have the API resolve my alias to their address. Mm. And of course, my initial reaction is like, no one's going to break into Nanode, man. Like, I engineered it securely, like, chill. But, it's like, take my ego away and think about it for a second. It's like, yeah, that's absolutely a possibility. And, it's a huge liability for me and just for the community in general, who's been scarred with such things as, the BitGrail incidents. So, yeah, I definitely took that criticism to heart. And around the same time, I also realized that there was another team working on it. So the guys over the Canoe wallet had also developed an alias system. And I found out about it like an hour after I launched my alias system live. The same day they had created a blog post about an alpha for their alias system. Now their alias system was definitely more full featured than mine. It included, like telephone number lookups and private key signing, things like this. And so, I thought what they were building was cool as well. And, we kind of talked about like, okay, we don't want there to be two alias systems. How do we combine these things? And we basically just couldn't reach an agreement on how to do it because they wanted to use their software. I wanted to, I was like, look, Nanode's already live, man. Like, let's just, we have tons of registrations. Can we just sort of build onto what I've got? And I don't think really either side was willing to cooperate with one another in that regard. And so we got into discussions with the core team, sort of each one of us back and forth.
You had to get a mediator.
Yeah, we needed some mediation there because it was definitely like a conflict. And Zach from the core team did an amazing job just sort of talking to me and talking to their team and just sort of like figuring out sort of a resolution to the situation. And what we agreed on was that I was going to halt alias registrations, let everyone keep their aliases, but halt alias registrations. And Canoe, which was launching their wallet with aliases in just a few days, was going to not include the alias feature. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like neither side was super happy about it, but we agreed upon it. Mm-hmm. And we basically were like, look, Zach was like, look, we don't want to mess this up. We don't want to have multiple alias systems. We don't want to sort of create any more divisions in the community than there already are, related to things like BitGrail and other incidents. We really want to like come together and make something awesome that, we all can govern and sort of, take more time and put a thoughtful approach into how to do it the right way, because there are all these concerns about like centralized versus decentralized solution and whatnot. So I think we all agreed on that. We're gonna like press pause on this whole idea for I guess a month or two maybe, and just sort of go back to the drawing board and like take all of our ideas and make something that's really awesome for the whole community.
Awesome.
So I'm excited. I'm definitely looking forward to that. And I think the alias system that we come up with is going to be really cool. And awesome. I also have to give a shout out to Jamie from Nano Wallet, who implemented my alias system. It was the first wallet to implement my alias system, first and only that I'm aware of, and implemented it like 3 days before we reached the agreement to halt the registrations. So thanks, Jamie, for your work and support.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you said what your advice to the community was work together, and it's like, so far you've talked about working with Brainblocks, the core team, the Canoe team, Nano Wallet. I feel like you are a great example of exactly what you're saying. You're practicing what you're preaching, which is awesome. So we all need to follow suit and work together. The thing about, I should have said this before, but Nano Wallet, it's confusing because you can have an alias to sign in, and then you can have an alias for people to send things to you. So,
whoops. Yep. I don't think I think we were rushing a little bit there. Yeah, you're right. I did notice that actually. I think I made that mistake myself the first time I was playing with it. I was like, all right, wait, how come I can put a space in? Oh,
this is a different alias.
Yeah, it's a different alias system. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have to figure that out. All right. Well, I think that we've covered a lot of stuff. We've maybe reached the attention span of our listeners. It's been awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I'm really excited about NanoCast, by the way. I think people are going to be really excited to hear these episodes, and I'm definitely looking forward to listening to the other ones that you've recorded.
Cool. I mean, I hope everybody loves it. So far, it's been great fun to record, and I'm excited to get all of these out. And by the time this comes out, there will already be 3 out. So,
whew, awesome.
Yeah. All right, so last word goes to you. What are some words of inspiration for the community at large?
Oh, man, words of inspiration. Keep doing what you're doing, guys. I think, the community is doing really well in general, and I think we all just kind of need to stay focused on our projects and, like, try not to get mad at each other about things. I know it's really easy. Like, there's a lot of divisiveness I see on Reddit, and which is understandable because there's, like, there's a lot of like little conflicts going on, but in general, I think Nano is like a very strong community. When you go and look at other crypto communities, like it's so much more focused on just like the monetary gain aspect of it, and like empowering miners or whatever, and like all those crazy like bigger conflicts. And there's a lot of like you don't really see that in the Nano community. So I just want people to stay happy, stay like working on what they believe in, and even if you're not technical, just like hang around and be curious, because people are super eager to tell you about their projects and have you test their projects.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, everybody, tell us what you think in the YouTube description. Let us know who you want to see, what you want to see, and if you think NanoCast should be a thing. And until next time, nanowers or nanites?
Nanerds.
Nanerds unite.
Woo!